Is this the greatest era in sports?
Yeah, it just might be, man. I don't know. So let's just look at the things that have been happening during this era, like post 2000s kind of.
Mm-hmm.
So first off, Ovechkin very recently just tied. Gretzky is going to surpass him pretty soon. 894 goals, right?
Which seemed like an unbeatable goal.
Everyone was saying that, right? And then you look at LeBron. 38,000 points, smashed that. He's at 42,000 and still going. Who knows when the hell this guy's gonna retire? You look at Steph, most threes in NBA history. He broke that record in 2021, 2,973 threes. He's at 4,000 and going.
You think he's gonna hit 5,000?
I don't know. Who knows, right? And then Brady, obviously, 102,000 passing yards, 737 TDs, 286 wins, 7 Super Bowls.
Yeah.
Then you shift towards MLB, BarryBonds, home run record 756 in 2007. Ichiro Suzuki, most hits in a season, 262, 2004.
Yeah.
If you want to go and look at the Olympics, UsainBolt, 100-meter dash, 9.58 seconds. That was 2009. Phelps, nobody's touching him either. 28 medals, 23 golds. He has 14 more gold medals than anyone else.
Yeah. No, Phelps' domination was crazy.
So that's kind of like end of the 90s, mid 90s to 2025, kind of our prime sports watching years. All this has been happening.
So one of the biggest correlations that I'll draw from like that tangent that you just went on a little bit there is that's a long era, right?
Yeah.
So is it that you had such supreme athletes? Fair enough, right? Some of the people you named are gifted athletes, and they are, some of them, considered greatest, if not on the top 2, 3 in their respective sports.
Yeah.
But how much does that have to do with the evolution of sports science, the evolution of sports? All of these guys get paid a lot more, right? They take care of their bodies a lot more. They have nutritionists. They have people that come train them. They don't only have one trainer. They're like 5, 10 different trainers.
Yeah.
They eat certain things. They have chefs at home. They completely watch what the hell they do, right? When it comes to all of that, right? So when you're doing that, because the one thing that you'll see with Brady, the one thing you see with Braun, right? The one thing that you're seeing with a lot of these guys, they're playing into their 40s, right? When there used to be a time that you used to retire by the time you were 35.
Yeah.
That's when people used to retire from basketball.
Yeah.
Right. So you're seeing a lot of players play so long. If they are going to play that long, you can make the argument that you are going to break these records that you just named. You're going to break them because you've been playing the game for so, obviously you have to be great at the game also.
Yeah.
But if you're going to extend it that long, right, that's one of the longest eras, right? So you can argue that, if you want to argue that this is one of the greatest sports eras of all time, I don't think you can neglect the fact that it's also probably one of the longest eras.
That's the thing too, right? You look at that
kind of stuff, right?
That span, but like all of those records were broken post 2000s, so like 2004-ish onward. So it's not that long when you look at it like that, but obviously they started their careers earlier,
right,
in the 90s. But there's so much like cross era comparison. They couldn't do it back in the day with hard-hitting basketball or whatever you want to say. And then these guys say it's so fast-paced, they wouldn't have lasted now. My thing is, like, just leave out the cross-era comparison, anything. What's clear is everything that I said. All those records being broken. It's happening. Everybody's witnessing greatness across all sports.
That's one way to look at it. But there is, I think, this whole thing that gets lost in that, because we saw LeBron go on and say on the McAfee show, like last week we saw it, where like Giannis would score 250 points.
I don't know about that.
Right?
That was sarcasm, right?
I don't. Yeah, he's being somewhat sarcastic, but I get he's probably annoyed with Charles Barkley and Shaq and these guys and the Jordan comparison, and how they're always saying that they could play in any era, and they're like, LeBron can't play in any era, or Steph can't play in any era. And I get it, and you're like, yo, I'm tired of taking the high road, and I don't want to be humble anymore, whatever, right? But there is this part of it that you get as, or I do as being a parent, as being a son, right? That there's somebody before you, right? And they paved the way, right? So you gotta, Steph wouldn't be out here shooting threes if there was no Ray Allen, if there was no Reggie Miller, if there was no 3-point line, if the sport didn't evolve, right? If it didn't start with James Naismith and then evolve into Bill Russell and then evolve into Michael Jordan and then evolve into LeBron and Kobe. If all of this didn't happen, you wouldn't be getting any of that, right? So you can't forget where the sport came from, right? So you have to give respect where it's due, right? So if those athletes were born in today's era, you don't think that with today's sports science, science and with today's nutritionists and the way that everyone takes care of their bodies today, you're telling me if Michael Jordan had the same competitive drive than he did back then, that he wouldn't be better at shooting today? Of course he would. Right? The argument is that he can't shoot threes. Michael Jordan could probably shoot better threes than LeBron. Right? LeBron just shoots them longer. He has a lot more that he does with like training and stuff, right? I'm not saying that Michael Jordan didn't, right? I'm just saying like a lot of these guys, right? Even if you're looking at the NFL, Brady and them, even if you're looking at baseball, even if you're looking at fighting, boxing, look at boxing, right? They don't even take fights unless they think they can win them.
Yeah.
Right? If you look at the one thing where primes usually don't last that long is probably UFC, but over there even you see John Jones.
Yeah.
Right? He's on this dominant tear. If he beats Aspinall, he's going to go down as the greatest of all time, right?
For sure. So he already is in my book.
Right? And then there is a lot. I feel like as long as people don't forget the past and realize that there's people that paved the way, right? Just like I didn't do this whole thing on my own, right? There was my dad before me, before him. It was my grandfather before him. There's like, it's just, they paved the way, right? You get a little bit more. My kid's going to have a little bit more than what I had, right? And I'm just talking about money and success, right? But it's the same way when you look at athletes, you look at sports, you look at acting. There is somebody who paved the way and raised, like we're looking at podcasting,
for
right?
sure.
A little bit of this goes to Joe Rogan. If he wasn't out there and getting 18 million views, getting 60 million views on a Trump interview, you think this would be this popular?
Who would be doing it? Yeah.
Apple Podcasts have been around forever. Nobody was on them. Listen to podcasts before Rogan, right?
Yeah.
So you can't forget like the people who paved the way. Right? That's my whole problem with that whole greatest era thing.
And also I feel like on that topic of evolution, I feel like as time progressed, like new records were made and new athletes wanted to beat those records. So it's like these weren't the records previously. So it's like if you beat them now, oh, you're the greatest. But before, when they set these records, they were considered the greatest.
Yeah, it's a popular sports adage, right? All records are meant to be broken, right? And all I'm saying is all these are happening right now. I'm over the cross comparison. Who cares? It's never going to happen. You're not going to go back in time and Jordan in his prime is going to face LeBron. It's not going to happen. And fair point you're making, they're not eating McDonald's and drinking beers before games anymore. Right? Like they're taking care of their bodies for sure. And we'll never have that answer. But it's cool watching Ovechkin do it. And then watching Braun do it and all this stuff going on. It's really cool to watch, man.
Another thing I'll add here is it could be easy for a younger audience to say that, right? Somebody who's less than 40 years old and they're saying that like, you know, they get it, this new era, this is the greatest era or whatever. But I'm going to tell you right now, everyone saying that 25 years from now, they're going to be like that era. The 2000s, that was the era. These guys aren't like Steph. This guy's not like, you're going to say the same thing, right? Because those are people you grew up watching. Those are people that you love in every respective sport. So you're fans of them. So you think there can be no one better than them.
For sure.
So that new kid that comes in, that's shattering all of these guys' records, you're going to be like, nah, man, Steph is a way better three. Yeah, right? Yeah. Like, imagine if there's a new 3-point king, you're going to be like, you guys don't remember Steph. These kids didn't watch Steph.
Oh my God, it makes me feel so old. Like when people talk about old school music and they'll be like, Missy Elliott. Like, that's not old school.
That's what I was going to say.
That's pretty old school.
Same thing applies to music too.
Yeah.
Love like music back then.
But what they used to call, like what we called old school.
Yeah.
And then what now people are calling old school makes me feel so old.
We're getting old school. That's what's happening.
Okay, so what's old school? Give me an example.
Like old school would be for me like Wu-Tang or Trap Called Quest or Lauryn Hill, Fugees.
Okay.
But that's still music that you listen to and liked, right?
Yeah, that's still music I listen to now.
Yeah.
Because I think music's a little bit different. I think it can transcend eras.
Yeah.
Right? Because it depends on what you're feeling, the mood you're into, where you are in life, or what you're even doing, working out.
Or even, I think we talked about this before. There's only like a cap of things you're only going to listen to a certain point. There's things on my phone I listen to and they're so old, but I'll just listen to those songs over and over again.
Yeah.
Because remember we talked about this?
Yeah. So it's like, to me, I feel like I have this theory. I don't know if everyone agrees with it.
Yeah.
But I think by the time you're 35, your playlist kind of ends there. And like you'll hear things on the radio and you'll like add them into, unless
Yeah.
you're like obviously
Really into
like
music.
you love music.
Yeah, because I was gonna say I do not agree with that at all.
Yeah, if somebody's like heavy into music and you're on your shit like about what album dropped whenever and you're listening to it 24/7 whenever it comes out, like we do with sports or money or stock market, whatever the hell, right?
Yeah.
Then I get it, right?
Yeah.
But like if for the everyday person, I feel like you kind of get used to listening to those songs and singing along with those songs, and you haven't heard the new songs enough to sing along with them. So when you hear it, you're like, well, I've heard this before because you've heard it on the radio or whatever, but you're not that into it, right? So your library kind of just stays to that point, but 35 and under, right?
And then all these new artists that are doing covers for all the songs that like I grew up listening to.
Yeah.
Weird.
It's so weird. I'm like, that's not her song.
Yeah. And then when you talk to somebody who's like 19, they'll be like, yeah, that is.
Yeah.
Like, no, it's not. That's a cover of a cover of a cover.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right?
But those are things like our parents' generation would say to like our generation. So I think it's just like with age.
Oh, for sure. Have you ever heard the kind of tracks our parents would be into? Like when they would put it on, you'd be like, what is this folk music?
It's a good time to be alive, man. A lot of stuff happening.
Yeah. But let's move on to this job.